Spawning down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, we have the red Zerg player from Root Gaming. Give it up for Root Gaming's JimRising, representing Mexico. And his opponent spawning up here in the top left-hand corner of the map, the purple Zerg player, representing Team Death Zone Pro. Give it up for ToP. People also asking why isn't Tempo joining me? Well, Tempo is over at LAN ETS. He's having a lot of fun over there at that Canadian LAN event. I think he said he was trying to get some games casted or something, also hoping to cast, so do check that out if you do have a bit of downtime, as there has been a little bit of downtime. But of course, if you also want to check out the main stream, that is also broadcasting, I believe right now, Kelazur versus Cham, and that should be a really awesome match. That's in the winners bracket finals. Of course, I want to note JimRising going for a fairly early pool gas, looking to get very aggressive right off the bat. ToP gonna have to be prepared for that aggression. Going for the spawning pool first after the gas geyser, so not gonna be in the worst spot, but did definitely drone up a little bit. In fact, this should actually, if I'm correct on this, he should have probably one of the best situational openings, because he's gotten the opportunity to drone up a little bit more than JimRising, and on top of that, he also manages to get up enough units with the defender's advantage to defend. Now JimRising not going to just be ending it with just the pure Zergling speed or anything. He's getting out of Baneling. He's going to send his first set of Zerglings in a kind of roundabout path around the corner. You notice that, and he's going to hide them, make a couple of Banelings, and then run in with his giant flood of Zerglings. He's gonna try and pool up these Zerglings in his main base and try and make it as difficult as possible for ToP to scout out. Now, ToP is not going for any kind of crazy drone scouts or anything of the sort. In fact, he's sitting on one base himself. He's getting up a Baneling nest. This, and the fact that he went for the earlier drones also, he didn't just go straight into all-out aggression, makes me think that he is concerned about aggression from JimRising. He has some concerns about it, and he's trying to play this safe, not hyper aggressive. He's trying to play it safe. He's gonna move out for the scout with the Zerglings as well as the Overlord, and oh boy, when he does that, these Banelings are gonna be morphing in on the other side of the map. He's going for his own hatchery. These Zerglings are gonna be able to catch some of ToP's Zerglings, and it looks like ToP was looking to get a bit aggressive, but it was fairly late aggression, and now look, JimRising has an overwhelming number of Zerglings, and he has Zergling speed. Oh, there's gonna be a big problem over here, as now these Zerglings getting caught. The Baneling's gonna be able to connect over here, getting some good kills. Couple of Banelings still be morphed in over here for ToP. ToP wants to continue that aggression, but here come the Banelings for JimRising. Gonna be able to make their way into the main bases. There's gonna be nothing to defend over here. And now we end up seeing ToP on an all-out retreat with his Banelings. Zerglings trying to make their way in. The Banelings for JimRising not getting the best detonations over there. And ToP is going to be able to easily hold. That was definitely a bit of a misfire from JimRising. He wanted to not just explode those Banelings on the Queen, he wanted to get them in on the mineral line. He wanted to use the Zerglings to try and keep the Queen busy. There were so many other problems with, I think JimRising really made a big flub over there. But it's now sitting 15 workers and 15 workers. JimRising still has some Zerglings, he still has some Banelings. And he's sitting down in terms of army supply, but right now he's actually got a pretty decent army supply. Gets a good Baneling connection over there as well. More Zerglings flood not out for ToP. JimRising only getting up his hatchery, but he is taking a cost-efficient engagement. He was down about 15 army supply, but in a matter of seconds, he is suddenly back up to a pretty comparable supply, 12 to 15. Even has still a couple of Banelings left out on the map and has the potential to continue that aggression. Neither of these players are halting any of that Zergling or Baneling production. They are not producing a ton of drones or anything. There is a couple of drones being snuck in over here for ToP, and this is what you want to do. You want to sneak in 1 or 2 drones. You don't want to overcommit to them. You just want to get a slight advantage over your opponent. Slowly get ahead of your opponent. But here we go. Zergling Baneling gearing up at the top of the ramp, and of course at the top of the ramp, ToP is going to have a nice little advantage in terms of the fact that JimRising doesn't have vision of the top of the ramp. There's actually no Overlords nearby, and that does make it a bit harder, just ever so slightly harder to make the aggression happen. The Queens, I believe, are able, were more than enough to chase away that aggression, but JimRising, oh, not getting amazing trades, getting okay-ish trades, but losing quite a few of the Banelings. Oh my god, losing a lot of his Zerglings as well. And now JimRising is up a creek without a paddle, as he has lost so many of his Zerglings and Banelings over here. But at the same time, ToP doesn't have any Banelings left over of his own. I guess it kind of evens out. ToP still has a single Baneling left over. JimRising has the time to get up another Baneling, but he also has the time to get up this Spine Crawler and burrow it in place. And this has been a crazy back and forth game, but they're finally starting to drone up on both sides. They're finally starting to halt a bit of that aggression. We have Banelings being morphed in over here for JimRising. Yeah, that's going to be, of course, important for the defense because he doesn't have any more left over, but overall, I'm not anticipating this to go into some crazy flood right now. These Zergos are doing some good damage, but JimRising finds a good connection with the Queen and the Baneling and just a handful of Zergos coming out. I feel like JimRising has what it takes that he needs to defend. And he ends up coming out of the entire thing with a slight little drone lead and continuing to drone up. His Roach Warren is a little bit later than ToP's, but ToP is going to have a hard time making a lot happen with just that slightly earlier Roach Warren. Now, ToP does have a nicer bank as his Roach Warren finishes up, so he's going to be able to get a flood of Roaches a little bit more so than JimRising. But he's not actually opting to go for it. He's continuing to just drone up. He's continuing to try and get into the later stages of this ZvZ. And with third gas geyser going down, no fourth gas geyser, this is starting to look to me like he just wants to get into a nice macro game. Maybe think about a third expansion. JimRising, sitting on just 2 gas geysers for now, is continuing to get up Zergons and Banelings, which very much interests me because that is something sort of odd. When you finish up your Roach Warren, you're getting up your third. A lot of it seems like you would want to go into the Roaches. You want to start to transition out your tech, but it seems like he's still a bit concerned about the potential for aggression coming out from ToP. He's not entirely sure what's going on. He finally does get a Zergling or a couple of Banelings into the mineral line and ends up seeing, you know, no gas geyser and maybe ends up seeing some of the Roaches they were popping out. So JimRising maybe getting a slightly better idea now. But here we go, big Roach flood. JimRising still has a nice little worker lead as well, so he can afford to make some more units. He can afford to do that to make sure he's secure at that third expansion. But it really is going to come down to those numbers now, as we have 5 Roaches out right now for JimRising as he starts to get his Roach production up a little bit later. ToP getting up to 9 Roaches and making his way across the map with a handful of the Roaches and these Zerglings. Spinecrawl are going to be actually very very helpful over here for JimRising. I like the fact that he's even doing things like morphing this Ravager. You want to get that extra DPS. If you're going to be on the lower Roach count, you need to use things like the Corrosive Bile shots to bring yourself back into the potential for the engagement. Of course, a couple of Zergons are moving around, not quite able to find a whole lot other than just scouting information on where his opponent's army is. ToP gonna be backing off though, doesn't feel super confident, knowing there's the Spinecrawl there, knowing that there's the Ravagers being morphed in. JimRising is gonna be able to secure this third expansion. And both of these players are just gonna continue to drone. We finally have Lair Tech coming up from ToP, which is a bit earlier than JimRising's. The Lair Tech for both of these players has definitely been very late in this game. Just because it's been such an aggressive game, opening up with the aggression early on and so on and so forth. But, well, ToP not really droning up a whole lot. He's just going for that earlier Lair Tech, getting up his own third expansion quite a bit later than JimRising. So this might be a time that he has to make some damage happen. JimRising controlling the top of this ramp though. I don't know how in the world ToP plans to break through this, especially with the Corrosive Bile is going to be going down at the top of the ramp as soon as these units try to move busts on up. And yeah, ToP is just going to back up. There's no way you can really safely do that. There's no way you can guarantee that he's going to be able to make it up. Couple of Ravagers for JimRising, moving around, not going for a hit squad on the army or trying to do harassment, really just looking for Overlords. Any Overlords he can snipe, as he does find a couple since he has this Overlord over here. Gonna be nice, killing off one, both of them supply blocking each other, as I think one of the Overlords for JimRising getting picked off in the top right. But we have a couple of these Roaches getting very aggressive. Ooh, kind of weird positioning over here. I think JimRising's hoping that he's gonna do exactly this, pull this army further down to the left-hand side, and it's gonna give JimRising the opportunity to move it over to the third. A lot of the Roaches, a lot of the Zergons now moving in. They're getting some good damage done. They may just go for the snipe. They may sacrifice a couple of themselves to try and get the big snipe off, and he does get the third, but he's gonna lose a lot of these Roaches on the retreat. Oh, this is gonna be a bit painful, but no, it looks like ToP not gonna fall for it. He's not gonna actually pull back his entire army trying to retreat or chase after this army, because he knows that these Ravagers are also in the mix. He knows he also wants it to be able to defend over there. Instead, he's gonna move straight across the map. JimRising on all-out retreat with his Roaches, with his Ravagers. He may end up even coming into a bit of a concave around this army as it moves in, but at the same time, the Ravagers want that bit of tankability, the Roaches in front of him. He wants to control the top of the ramp. ToP is trying to get up there to make sure that that does not happen, but JimRising is just looking a little bit too strong. That roach count, that economy has definitely been paying off. 38 roaches to 24. And ToP is at a massive disadvantage, losing the third, losing the roach numbers. And now he has the +1 missile attacks finished up. That's all well and good. But does he have the units to back it up? Is that really going to be anything close enough? The answer is just a straight out flat no. He needs something else. Does he try and throw down an extra gas geyser and, you know, say, I have enough roaches and ravagers to at least defend for a little bit? Let's go up into Spire play. Let's maybe get out some Hydralisk. You try and make that transition out and go into fast lurkers. There are things you can do, but they're all risks. They're all things that are going to leave ToP vulnerable. And the option that he's going for right now is just, I guess, continue to drone up his third and just try and play out a macro game. Play the safer game and hope that somehow he catches JimRising overcommitting, losing some of these Ravagers or something. Maybe getting out of position and some counter harassment later on with a couple of roaches can do some good worker damage. There are things you can do, but ToP is really opting to play this very, very safe. And JimRising is not falling for it. JimRising is just poking and prodding. He's seeing that there's not an opening, so he's not overcommitting. Loses, yeah, a Ravager here and there, but he's not moving it with his entire army in an awkward position and committing with it. He's moving with his army right now, but he's got the army to back this up. He's got the army to take a good engagement. 31 roaches to 51. Here we go. ToP is going to potentially be making his stand. This is the losers bracket. And even though this is game number 1, and there is going to be a game number 2, this is a very important match. You do not want to go down 0-1 one game. That means you cannot lose any more games or you are out of the qualifier. But JimRising does not care. The numbers are a little bit too strong. And JimRising is going to be able to take game number 1 in a sweeping fashion. So it's sort of slow and calm-ish game. It started off a bit aggressive, but overall, the game sort of pretty much petered out, and it was a lot of just kind of small pokes and small prods. Being able to pick off the third expansion because things were a little bit too crazy. Just in terms of like where all the roaches and they were moving around and pulling ToP out of position. But of course that meant that JimRising just was able to get into a really, really nice spot. But we are going to be hopping into game number 2 pretty soon. JimRising, of course, taking that 1-0 lead. And ToP got to figure something out. JimRising is looking for that revenge, getting knocked to the losers bracket by the one and only, I believe it was, what was the name? It was Byrada, who is currently playing off versus Dominique Clexiria, if that's how you pronounce the name. It's a difficult name. Some people in the Latin American scene love these super complicated names. Alright, so got the invite. We're going to find out what the next map is. It's going to be Prime Terraces. What a surprise. I think we've seen Prime Terraces in every single series. It's kind of insane. Ready? Surely Jeff. As soon as ToP is in the lobby and we're getting ready, we will jump into the game. Well, you guys are watching the DreamHack Austin Latin American qualifiers. And, of course, the winner of this is going to go on to face off in the losers semi-finals-ish. Like, the losers round of 4 play versus Aces Wing. The winner of that plays versus Eric. The winner of that plays versus the other side of the losers bracket in the losers bracket finals. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're hopping into yet another game. We'll see you guys on Prime Terraces. Oh, how embarrassing. ToP has a computer made of plastic. Oh, and there it is. He finally loads in a little bit. You're getting there. Come on, ToP. I believe in you. Get your cheers out for ToP. You can make it, man. How is he playing ZvZs? He's doing a pretty decent job, like getting some pretty good connections and everything. I'm impressed. He's playing on a computer that's loading this slowly. Or maybe it's his internet. Either way, that's still pretty impressive. Playing on like the lowest settings. Of course, JimRising sitting in that root house, getting that dirty root money. Probably has a computer made of diamonds. Feeling very, very comfortable. And I also just realized, as we are finally hopping into it, that if JimRising ends up advancing on, if he gets all the way to the grand finals, we could very well see a Kelazur versus JimRising grand finals for the qualifying match. Both of the players sitting in the root house. That is a possibility. But of course, this is not going to be the case just yet, as we spawn up here in the top left-hand corner of the map. Man who wants to play against not a teammate. Well, I guess actually, yeah, it's a teammate, as they are both on root. We have Root Gaming's JimRising. Roommates also. And down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, does not want to let that situation happen. He's going for the 13-12, I believe. Give it up for Dead Zone's ToP. Dead Zone Pro's ToP. All right, JimRising going for a spawn pool first. It's not a crazy early pool. It was like a 17 or 16-ish pool. But this is going to lend pretty well to the aggression that ToP is going to try and put out. We're going to be seeing the hatchery go down immediately afterwards. So the gas guys is going to be a little bit further delayed for JimRising. He's not going to have Banelings or Zerglings speed quite as fast as ToP. But there's still a potential, or there's still a pretty good lead, I would say, for JimRising in terms of being able to make the defense happen. His speed isn't going to be that much further delayed. He's not going to have Banelings that much later if he decides to go for them. And here we go. Baneling nest going down. ToP is going to want to do what a lot of players do on this map. He's going to want to try and get out that first set of 6 Zerglings. 4 to 6 Zerglings. You send them around and you send them in a big sweeping motion around the map. And by doing that, you can hide them in the corner. Make a couple of Banelings. I'm actually surprised we don't see more players kind of trying to metagame that a little bit. Saying, like, I know that this is a thing that a lot of players like to do. They get out their first set of Zerglings and they just send them straight across the map in like in a more roundabout path. So let me just send my overlords in a more roundabout path, because you're trying to dodge overlords when you go in the roundabout path. But if the overlords are, yeah, they're doing something like this, they go in this more roundabout path, then there's a potential for him to catch this. But ToP is, where are his Zerglings? I guess they're just sitting in the main base. Oh, he's going for a Roachborn. Oh, that wasn't a Baneling nest, that was a Roachborn. I do apologize, ladies and gentlemen. I am apparently very much not on point. 5 hours of sleep is apparently not enough for you, as I'm finding out. But we do have a Burrow play coming out as well. This could really catch JimRising very much off guard. He's going for the Spinecrawler. Spinecrawler is going to be a really good choice, especially as he's getting one in the main and the natural. As he sees there is no natural expansion over here. That should definitely set off some alarm bells. And of course, JimRising has not scouted out the main base, so he's still a little bit in the dark, but he may be thinking this is a Baneling play. He may be thinking this is a big Zergling Baneling flood. Oh, JimRising definitely getting the better end of that Zergling trade. He's starting to get up his own Roach Warren. Roaches are starting to pool up. If he waits too long, though, JimRising is going to know. He's going to be able to get out his own roaches. I think that JimRising knows. I don't know how he knows. There seems like there could potentially be more builds they could be facing off against, but something that he's seen, something is set his alarm bells off, and he knows what he's facing off against. The Spinecrawlers, the faster Roach Warren instead of going for a Baneling nest. I think that JimRising is going to be prepared for this. He just has to buy enough time to get up 4 or 5 roaches, and then that in combination with 2 Spinecrawlers and the Queens, I feel like he's going to have more than enough to defend. Even some of these, one of the Queens is going to have enough energy for a Transfuse, just to add in a little bit of that extra defense. The natural expansion is going down so late for ToP. He's sitting at a very late expansion and also a lower drone count. Thanks, drone. I'm not sure what that was about. I think the... I have so many. But here we go. Roaches making their way up. They encounter the 2 Spinecrawlers and just say, nope, nope, nope. We're heading on out. We are not going up into that. And I guess he might just try and play this out into a macro game and say, like, let me try and play as greedy as possible. You invest into 2 Spinecrawlers. You can't really easily put on the aggression on the other side of the map. He's going to make some Ravagers. And JimRising may overcommit to the defense a little bit. That is certainly a possibility. But is that really going to be the case? I don't know. The Spinecrawlers are nice, and they're going to be helpful with counterattacks and all sorts of other things, but JimRising also isn't exactly that far behind in roaches anymore. In fact, he's taken the roach lead, so if he does decide to move out across the map, sure, he's not going to have the Ravagers that ToP has now created, but I could see him legitimately just getting some good damage done. Lair Tuck is, of course, coming up, though. We don't have that 4th gas geyser, and with the fact that roaches were produced in previous numbers, I'm wondering if we are going to be seeing some sort of a 2-base Spire play once that Lair gets closer to finishing up, take that 4th gas geyser. We are going to be seeing the evolution chamber coming down, so no, it's looking a lot more like he wants to get impulsive missile attacks. He really wants to go into that big roach play. Maybe try and grab a 3rd expansion sometime soon. Both of these players are a little bit more hesitant to grab 3rds than I thought they would be, considering they are playing fairly defensive at this point. Both of the players sitting back with their armies, not really moving too far onto the map. We have a couple of Ravagers looking for some Overlord kills, nothing massive, but, you know, JimRising going to be the first one to throw down that 3rd. I don't think ToP is scouted. Okay, ToP does barely see it with this Overlord, so going to be in the right spot for it. And going to know he can safely grab his. We are starting to see our first potential actual macro-ish game on Prime Terraces. I think we saw 3rd expansions go down in a PvZ earlier on in the day, but not a lot of crazy macro ZvZs have happened so far. The closest we've seen is it goes to the 3rd bases, but we may be seeing it go a little bit further. ToP is pumping out a lot of roaches, getting out some Zerglings, and really wanting to put on some of that aggression. There's only 4 roaches around still available for ToP because he's making a lot of Ravagers with his roaches. Really going to be looking for those big corrosive bile shots. In the meanwhile, JimRising really sticking around on those roaches. Not quite the highest Ravager count, but he has a bigger army lead, I would say. Or he did. It does at least a little bit right now. Getting some pretty good corrosive bile shots also on his opponent's army. Doing a good job dodging those corrosive bile shots. JimRising, despite not having the higher tech army, these Ravagers do have lower health, so they have to be a bit careful. They might do more damage, but they do not eat the damage quite as fast. You need those roaches there to tank. Good corrosive bile shot, finishing off one of the Ravagers over there for JimRising, and JimRising not going to be able to chase this. And now we're at a point where ToP has been able to edge out 5 more workers than JimRising. JimRising has a bigger army lead, though, and is continuing to push across the map. He took a pretty good engagement over there. Despite being in a bit of a worrying position, he had more roaches, but they weren't the Ravagers. He didn't have those corrosive biles in the mix. Ooh, burrow play coming out. Gonna be able to keep these Ravagers alive for a little bit longer, but the Overseer comes in, and immediately JimRising cleans up all of those Ravagers. All of their lives are forfeit. And oh no, this is a really dangerous spot over here for ToP. The roaches for JimRising trying to give that hug of death now, as the Ravagers also adding in that extra DPS. ToP doesn't have any Ravagers. ToP is starting to fall in supply. It's 18 roaches and 2 Ravagers to just 11 roaches right now for ToP. And I think that JimRising may be spiraling a bit too far out of control. He was already sitting up 1-0, and I think this might be it. This might be what he needs to do. He just needs to make it a little bit further forward, and guess what? These drones are going to be the next thing being attacked. And that is going to be it. JimRising has done it. It's gotten too far out of control. As these roaches try and pop out of production, they are immediately going to get picked off. There's no opportunity for ToP to get them to build up into larger and larger amounts, and GG gets called. ToP is going to be tapping out. JimRising taking the 2-0 victory. Big congratulations going to, of course, JimRising, as we bring it back. And we're going to cut to a short break as we get ready to hop into the next series. JimRising is going to move on to the next match to play versus the winner. Or no, he's just going to play versus Asus Wing. And I believe Kelazor ended up beating out Sham 2-1 in a closer series. One of the closest series we've seen today, since there haven't been a lot of game 3s. Excuse me. But we're going to hop to a short break as that game gets set up, the vetoes and everything get done, and we find out if we're allowed to cast it, because I think only one game is happening at a time for the rest of the broadcast. So I'm going to find out in a little bit. Please don't go anywhere. You guys are watching the BaseTradeTV DreamHack Latin American Qualifier coverage. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I want to thank you guys all so much for tuning in for all of the Latin American Qualifier coverage. That is going to be it for BaseTradeTV, since there's only one match happening at a time now. That does mean that the DreamHack Qualifier, or the DreamHack main stage, will be taken over. I'm done since there's only one match at a time. GL. But that is going to be it for me. I want to encourage you guys to go ahead and check out the DreamHack main stage stream if you want to see the rest of the qualifiers. It's going to be JimRising versus Asus Wing, as well as the winner of that plays versus Eric. Of course, the winner of that will play versus Dominique Klexria, who actually beat by Rada, I mean, which is pretty cool. And the winner of that will play versus Gosu Champ. The winner of that will play versus Kelzer. So there's still plenty of matches happening. It's just that they're all happening one at a time at this point. So since there's only really room for one English stream, they are the main stream. They get priority over this. So we are going to be finishing up. I want to again thank you guys all so much for tuning in. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you guys. Of course, first of all, thank you to anyone, all the subs that resubs I might have missed. I do apologize. I tried to keep an eye on the chat and everything, but I don't think I missed too many. If I did, just, you know, let Base Trade know, or, you know, Rifkin or Zombie Guard, whoever ends up casting next. And of course, if you guys enjoy the broadcast, do consider following the channel, subscribing, all that good stuff. I don't know if there's more DreamHack qualifier coverage tomorrow going on. I'm not entirely sure. But Rifkin and Zombie Guard will probably be the next one broadcasting on the channel at some point, either tomorrow or the day after tomorrow or something like that. And if you guys enjoyed my side of the broadcast, then do consider checking me out over at FearDragon64 on Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, and everything else. And yeah, it's been a pleasure to have you guys. I am going to see if we can host. Here's the thing. I'm gonna do this. All right, I'm gonna host because I think Rifkin is asleep, so I get control over this now. Yay! So I'm gonna host the main stream. I encourage everyone to go over to the main stream after like a minute or two. And I'm gonna like post a link in the chat and everything to the main stream where you guys can catch the rest of the qualifier. After a little bit, I'm actually gonna host the LAN ETS stream, which is happening. I think like Tempo is casting it and a bunch of other stuff. It's like a really awesome event happening in Toronto. There's Huck and No Regret and a bunch of other North American StarCraft players over there. So if you want to check that out, I'm gonna be hosting it after that. I think EJK is playing right now versus Jig, who's another like cool Zerg player. It's a really weird game. What's going on apparently, but thank you guys so much for tuning in. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and enjoy the different hosts, and you know, wherever you end up, and have fun.